Okay, so today we're going to be installing an observation window in a beehive, and I'm going to do my best to do a voiceover on this without a whole lot of ums and uhs, but you'll just have to bear with me. But as you can see from this footage here, this is just a view through a lid that has an observation window on it. You can do this in the side of a box or on an inner cover, or however you want to do it. Works both ways. Obviously, if there's space, like you saw in that first footage, they'll build wax. So what we're going to do on this one is we're going to put the plexiglass just flush with the inside of the box. We're not going to router it out or anything so that it's perfectly flush with the inside. I don't think that's really necessary. You can do that, but I kind of wanted this to be something that anyone could do with somewhat minimal tools. I mean, we'll use a jigsaw, but a lot of people have jigsaws. They're fairly inexpensive as well. But first step is to just kind of mark out the area where you want your window to be. And we're going to obviously use the piece that we cut out as the door as well, because we don't want to just leave that window open all the time, because the bees, they don't want to see all that light shining in when you're not spying on them. So I'm just going to clamp this down to the table here and grab the jigsaw, and we'll do what is called a plunge cut. Like I said, we're going to reuse this piece of the box as the lid, and so we don't want to like drill a pilot hole and do all that. So we'll do what's called a plunge cut. It's not super difficult, but you basically do kind of like what we saw there. And I'm going to speed this up so that you guys don't have to make me watch all these cuts, but that way you can kind of see how those plunge cuts work there. And this should be the last cut, and voila, it's out. And one thing to note, like, this doesn't have to be perfectly square or whatever, right? Like, because you're using the same piece as the lid, so don't fret too much about how good your cuts are or whatever. It'll work perfectly fine. So now we're going to cut the plexiglass, and plexiglass is pretty easy to cut. You just score it. And so I've got my door there just kind of as a guide. I want to leave enough space on either side of the opening to install screws. So I was just kind of making sure I had enough plexiglass there, and I'm gonna make a mark and then just use the square there as a guide and just score it with a knife or a razor blade or whatever, like you see me doing there. Once you get a nice score line, you can just bend the plexiglass and it'll break. This is kind of a small piece, so I'm just kind of whacking it with this square in order to get that to break, just because it's harder to get leverage on it. Checking it, looks like it's going to work. There is a protective film on one side of that plexiglass, that's why it looks white, but we'll pull that off in a minute. So now I'm going to drill some holes. You don't want to just try to screw through the plexiglass because it'll just crack and break on you. So I'm going to drill holes for the screws. This is kind of a more the merrier type of thing here. I did 6 just because of this being a nuke box and it's super hard to get your drill in there. I'm using a little impact. Maybe if you were doing a little bit larger one or on a bigger box where you could easily get your drill in there, you could do a bit more just so the plexiglass doesn't get wavy and stuff as the temperature changes. But yeah, so we got our plexiglass cut out, we got our holes drilled in, and now we're going to use some little screws that have kind of a wide head on them and are not going to poke through the box here. And basically I had to take like the little bit out and just kind of stick it in the impact driver. It's like not the kind that actually lock in the impact driver, it's the kind that like in order for it to fit. So on a bigger box that wouldn't be much of an issue, but you can kind of see me take it and kind of just stick it in there and it'll just kind of fall out. But that's what I needed to do for that impact to just barely fit inside the box there. You could also get like a small stubby screwdriver if you only have like a drill that won't fit. You're not using a very long screw anyways. It's like a 1/2 inch screw because that's 3/4 inch board. A 1/2 inch screw should be plenty. I think the type of screw that I'm using is for like putting up like tile backer or something, or Yeah, something like that. You can find them for putting up like metal lath, I think it's called, and they're real pointy and they get kind of a wider head on them. Now we're making the latch for the door. I'm gonna put the hinge on the bottom, and so the latch will go on the top just to keep that from sliding open. So I'm just got a little piece of 3/4 inch board that you might have for like an entrance reducer or for the rim of a lid or whatever. And I'm gonna drill a hole through that, and it'll just kind of pivot as a simple little latch. So I just clamp that to the side of the bench I've got there, um, so I don't hurt myself trying to hold on to it and drill through it. That probably wouldn't be a very good idea, but I've got a little small deck screw that I'm going to use for that. It's going to be out in the elements, so something that's not going to rust is preferred, but I'm sure whatever will be fine. So that just screws into the wood above the door, and then you just kind of tighten it to where it's, kind of not super easy to turn, but you can turn it, and that's all there is to that. And I use like migratory style lids on these nuke boxes, so there's no issue for me going up to the top there like that. If you had like a telescoping lid, you may want to do your latch on the side and not on the top, and as long as it's tight enough, it should be fine. Here's a little hinge, little hot dip galvanized hinge that I've got there, just something that I had laying around. And you want to try to shove the door like to the bottom or to the side that the hinge is on, whether you're hinging from the top or the bottom, whatever side, however you want to do it. Shove it to that side so it'll have enough room to open. I I did that, but mine slid a little bit as the screw kind of followed the grain, so I had to get a plane and actually plane off a little bit of wood on the side to where it would open and close a little bit easier. But I think I'll show that. So okay, and now here's the wood plane just to kind of make the door shut a little bit easier. You just have to take it off of the side that's like on the inside of the box. The outside, obviously it doesn't have to be reduced at all, but just helping that close a little bit easier because I didn't get the best alignment when I installed the hinge. Just don't cut your hand. You can use sandpaper for this, like screw some sandpaper to a block of wood. Would work just fine. Just if that's having trouble closing, you can do that. But I had a plane inside, so that's what I used. And voila, it's done. Now we'll open this up. You can see I've still got the protective film on there, but rip that off and there's your window. Good to go. And I'll be using this for another video, which I'm filming part of it tomorrow, but it's going to be a multi-process or multi-step video.